Tēnā tātou katoa, good evening. Publicly funded, privately run charter schools are on their way back. Big time. The government will pour $153 million into setting up 50 charter schools over the next 4 years. 15 schools will be brand new and 35 state schools will be converted. So what makes charter schools different? Well, they're run by private businesses, not-for-profits, churches or iwi, and are contracted by the state for 10 years. They don't have to teach the curriculum, but there will be targets for attendance and achievement, or they could be shut down. Associate Education Minister David Seymour says the schools provide more options for students, but teachers' unions don't like them and say the millions of dollars of public money should go to improving public schooling. Here's political reporter Amelia Wade.
Attention! Schooling is about to take a right turn, with the return of charter schools like Vanguard Military School, which seals its haka with a salute. Charter schools were booted out by the previous Labour government and turned into special character schools. But this time the government is going bigger.
To bring kids into a school that's different and engage them differently so that they can feel a sense of pride and purpose that ultimately leads to achievement.
They're not just creating new ones, but converting some state schools as well. St Stephen's Māori Boys Boarding School, also known as Tipene, will become a charter school.
Our day will look quite different. It'll start early and finish late. But the productivity that I think that allows over that time is really crucial.
35 state schools will convert by term 1 next year, and by 2026 there'll be 15 brand new charter schools. $153 million has been budgeted over 4 years.
Can you guarantee that charter school students on average won't get more than state school students?
Oh, absolutely. Look, the principle here is that a child attending a charter school is funded no more or no less than a child in a similar state school.
The PPTA union says it thinks the initial $153 million investment is a misuse of money.
Every New Zealand student deserves a trained, qualified, expert specialist teacher in front of their class. What charter schools will do is take that right away from local communities without consultation.
They should just be honest, they should just come out and say the reason we don't like charter schools is that it's an existential threat to our model where we collect 1% of our members' salaries and sit in Wellington and try and meddle in education policy.
We don't support an unproven failed experiment where we're sending untrained teachers into schools.
As well as hiring who they wish, charter schools will be able to teach what they wish and when they wish, but will have to meet attendance and achievement targets. Meanwhile, state schools are facing more handcuffs, like an hour of reading, writing and maths, and mandating structured literacy and the cell phone ban.
I absolutely think it's ironic. This is actually really crazy when you think about this, that you're putting this one set of rules in because you say this is what's most needed and this is going to make the biggest difference for our young people, but then on the other hand you're saying let's open a bunch of schools where they don't have to follow these rules.
The government's general thrust is we are going to demand higher standards. Charter schools will be the only schools that actually contract that and say if you don't do it your funding is at risk and you may ultimately be closed down.
Charter schools charting a course into an ideological clash.
Amelia's with us now. Kia ora, Amelia. Why do the charter schools get 10-year contracts?
Well, under the last arrangements, the contracts were for 6 years, but that meant when there was a change of government, it was relatively easy for them to scrap the charter schools. And the reports on charter schools' performance from that time are really mixed. One school had to be closed down while a Ministry of Education review found that there were serious gaps in the monitoring of the schools. So David Seymour says the 10-year contracts will give the schools more certainty and more runway in order to prove themselves and ensure that their survival doesn't depend on the will of the government of the day.
Amelia, tēnā koe.